This is a quick video taking you through questions 5 and 6 and 11 and 12 of the recent assessment you've done in Year 11. They are the higher tier questions, both listening and reading. Hopefully after this you'll understand why the answers were what they were and any potential pitfalls or vocabulary traps that you need to avoid next time. So let's start with some good advice. Listening, make sure you read the question. Expect traps, it's an assessment. The examiner will put little traps in and a lot of people will fall for them. We need to be aware of what sort of traps there could be and make sure we don't. Make sure you use both chances to listen. You're not just thinking after one, I haven't got it. Keep persevering. If it's the second time through and you've got an answer, make sure you're checking, thinking about little words, negatives, that sort of thing that could change the meaning. Use logic and context. You're very smart people, so that means consider what's a likely answer, what sounds a bit out of context, a bit weird. It's going to be mostly in line with what you're thinking. It's highly unlikely in a listening that you'll ever hear the exact word that appears in a question or one of the potential answers, and if you do, it's probably a trap. Reading, read through the question, look at how it's punctuated. Is there anything in bold? Because that's going to be something we need to pay attention to. So here it says most important. That means there might be more than one thing that's important, but we're looking for the thing that's mentioned as being the most important, the essential thing. Little words are often key. Negatives, intensifiers, they can change the meaning greatly. And if that happens, you need to make sure that you're aware of them and how they can adapt. Again, expect traps. It's an exam. The examiner is going to expect you to, or try and get you to fall into some traps when you're not paying fully attention or under the stress of an exam. And just like in the listening, use the logic, use context. You're smart people. Often your gut reaction, oh, are they saying this? That can be true when you look into things in further detail. So question 5 was all about a meal out, and we were given these 6 statements and we had to work out which 3 were true from what we heard. My first thing is I would make sure in the time I was given to read through these 6 statements and start to think, where could an examiner try and catch me out? So my first reaction would be to look at things like they ate and last Sunday. That means we're referring to the past. So if I hear anything about a meal that isn't in the past, this is likely to be something that isn't true. Not related to Mabruka, I start thinking what sort of words that aren't related or relations that I know. Things like family, maybe family members, uncle, auntie. I could hear something along those lines to get me to the answer. The 5th person, if I hear the number 5 or cinquième, 5th, and I don't hear it with person, or I just hear Algeria's Independence Day, that could be quite confusing because we need to make sure that it's legitimately talking about a person when we're listening. Famous in a village, is she well known? Is she some sort of symbol of something? Think around that. Name have a special meaning. Are we going to find out what that meaning is? What language might that be in? Is it going to tell us? What sort of things do we have to listen out for? And not a happy person. Well, there's a negative here. Are we going to hear maybe something that is positive, that shows she is a happy person, and the negative might catch us out? That's what I'm thinking going into this question. So this is what was said. I've highlighted bits in the text as we go through that I think are important. So remember, for A, we were looking at tense. So it starts out ce dimanche, this Sunday, and then it says tu verras, il est délicieux. You will see, it's delicious. Tense don't relate to the past here. Neither this Sunday nor you will see relate to the past at all. The trap is you hear the word delicious and you see the word delicious in the example and the answer and you think, right, that's the correct one. But the tense here is telling us that she actually hasn't been to Mabruka's house last Sunday. She's planning on going this weekend. So it can't be the answer. For the second part, not related, we do hear words like tante, which makes us think, oh, maybe auntie, she could be. But what it says, mais en réalité, elle n'est pas vraiment de ma famille. She isn't really from my family. So it's a negative here. Elle n'est pas vraiment de ma famille. She's not from my family. So B is one of our correct answers here. When we think about C, it says Elle est née le 5. Elle est née le 5, that means she was born on the 5th. Here, it says she was the 5th person to be born. Born on the 5th and being the 5th person isn't the same thing. Don't get caught out by the fact, again, it says Algerian independence, as it does in the text. D, we're looking about whether or not she was well known or famous, and it says here, in her village, dans son village, so we've located the part of the listening where we need to find this information or validate it. It says, Elle était symbole de la liberté. She was the symbol of freedom. The symbol of freedom, well, it doesn't say that she was definitely famous, but we can take a lot of confidence in understanding that to mean she was famous. So far B and D are correct. The name Mabruka has a special meaning. Well, here we have appelé Mabruka, you know appelé from je m'appelle, called Mabruka. Ça veut dire chance en arabe. So it says something about chance and you hear Arabic. So again, which means luck in Arabic, Mabruka has a special meaning. So our answers there were B, D and E. And our key vocabulary, elle connaît, she knows, elle est née le, she was born on, symbole, to be a symbol, ça veut dire, that means, and elle rit, she laughs. Question 6, on new technology. We were given these 7 statements, and we had to pick the correct one, bearing in mind which each of the 4 people said. So again, here is the transcript. Number 1, we might hear jeux vidéo, computer games. We might hear heure, hours. So we're thinking hours on video games, and we're looking down here. Illness, not necessarily. Education doesn't really fit. Fraud, bullying. Maybe it could be a lack of exercise, but we don't hear anything about sport or even exercice. We do see this word accro. Accro is the word addiction, to be an addict, to be addicted. For number 2, we listen and we see ordinateur, which means computer. Communique, to communicate, but we're getting a negative around it, so it doesn't communicate with others. S'ils ne sortent pas plus souvent. Sortir is to go out. If they don't go out more often. So if we're thinking computers, not communicating with others, not going out more often, not educational standards, not bullying, we've got addiction, not illness, it certainly sounds like a lack of social skills. Thirdly, in our text here, we've heard here choquante. So it's a near cognate, shocking. Message désagréable. Well, we might not know désagréable, but we hear message, messages, and then we hear cruel. So you're hearing shocking, messages, and cruel. You look down this list. So no large lights for you. You look down this list. Désagréable, choquant, message, and cruel. We're looking for bullying. And finally, the last one I think is the easiest one. Carte de crédit, credit card, and voler son identité, something about identity. So credit card and identity. If we have a look down the list, what's it likely to be logically within the context? D, fraud. So the key vocab from that section I would say is accro, addicted, sortir, to go out, désagréable, nasty, les billets, tickets, and voler son identité, to steal his or her identity. So those are the listening questions. I know it always seems easier when you have the text in front of you, but the examiner is looking for you to pick out these sort of keywords and phrases, be able to filter out what isn't important in order to get to your answers. Then, question 11, the reading question, the first one, the problem and the reason. We need one thing in each box in order to answer correctly. So this is the text as you saw it. The first thing I would do is locate where they're talking about the plane. So le vol is the flight. We've got here, je n'ai pas pu acheter à manger. So you've got something about I couldn't and eaten. I couldn't buy anything to eat. So the problem was that they couldn't eat anything, or they couldn't buy anything to eat. The reason for that, I find car, because, so I know my reason's going to come after that. Il y avait de la viande in everything, so because of meat, in everything, je n'en mange pas. I don't eat it. So together, we could look at that and think, right, couldn't buy food, meat's in everything, I don't eat. Put it all together, don't eat meat. Then, car journey, voiture, the word for car, we've located it in the text. Mon père n'avait jamais conduit à droite. Well, here it's vocabulary. You need to know left and right. Left is gauche, droite is right. Who's doing this in the car? My dad, driving on the right. That doesn't really seem like much of a problem. I know it comes first, but we see this word, effrayant, scary or scared. We could put that as the problem, and dad driving on the right is definitely the reason. So yes, it appears in a different way around in the text, but you're expected to be able to adapt that the other way around. Then finally, hotel, we find that in the text to give ourselves the idea of where it is. And again, quelques heures de sommeil, right at the end. Sommeil, it's vocabulary. Sommeil means to sleep. Quelques heures, just a few hours sleep is the problem. On construisait un autre hôtel. Well, looks like to construct another hotel. So basically building works, another hotel construction. So those are our answers. Here's our vocab. Viande being meat, en being it or of it, la droite being the right, effrayant being scary, and le sommeil being sleep. And finally, question 12. We're given 4 sentences and we had to think about what joins onto that. I really like these questions because there's a big logic to it. If you think about how these ... dots are or what comes before it, you can give yourself a good idea before even looking at the answers to what comes next. So if you look at the first one, it's les jeunes. After les jeunes, that's a subject, young people, it's going to be an action, there's going to be a verb. And we know that using les jeunes or ils, they, verbs followed by ent. So we're going to be looking for ent verbs very likely. And the second one, je, that's a subject. I, likely to be followed by a verb. The third one, you see je mange. Well, je mange means I eat. So ... Is it going to be talking about a food type? Is there a type of food that comes after this? The first part is talking about eating lots of fruit. So after je mange, what sort of food will appear? And then finally, you've got j'adore la nourriture italienne. So it's an opinion about Italian food. So are we going to maybe get a reason at the end? We can maybe think before we even look at the answers, are these things going to appear? So here are our answers. Do we have anything that kind of falls into place? Well, here straight away we've got a verb that ends in ent. Mange, ent. Young people eat too many chips. Does that work? Yeah, it does. It fits together about eating habits. Then the second one, je, we're looking for a verb. So com's not a verb. Ni's not a verb. Raumon's not a verb. And sont means are. And je doesn't mean they. So you can't say I are. So the only one that could fit is C. Je mange. Je followed by a verb. We know that ends in an E in the present tense. The third one, je mange beaucoup de fruits. Je mange, are we looking for a food type? Ni is a negative. We don't have any other negatives there. Sont certainly wouldn't fit. Fast food, je mange rarement du fast food. I rarely eat fast food. Fits in very nicely. Finally, we're looking for an opinion, or maybe a reason to go with our opinion. I can't find any because, car, or parce que, or puisque here, so have to look again. The other thing in here is Italian food. I think, is there anything that links it to Italian food? Chips, salad's already gone. Could be pizza, but it's got a negative at the start. Doesn't really have the other part to it. Les pâtes, pasta, that's very Italian. I love Italian food, such as pasta. So, hopefully, that has explained maybe where you've gone wrong on one little part of those higher questions. Take notes of the vocabulary, put it into a Quizlet or some of the vocab learning tools that you use, and hopefully if you expect the traps and you have similar questions in the future, you won't fall into them again. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Please remember to like and subscribe.